Does Howie have a plan? Welcome into the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. It's great to be here with you on Wednesday, November 4th, 2020, 12 o'clock here on the East Coast. As always, joined alongside Gavin Tony. We have a lot going on here in the world as a whole, in the sports world, in the world. Again, the trade deadline was yesterday. Not much really going on. We'll cover that all. Many of you may have stayed up late last night. Again, the election, something that is still yet to be called. We will cover it in the coming days today, of course. Given the lack of results, we're not going to go too much into detail with it. But Gavin, I mean, we got no trades at the deadline here. If you remember back a few years ago, Jay Ajayi came here from Miami, helped us win the Super Bowl. Golden Tate came here, helped us go into the playoffs. Gerard Avery, which was more of an underrated move last year, he actually played pretty well for a lot of the snaps that he had. Gavin, there were no moves this year. But first of all, how are you doing? And then we'll get some of your thoughts on what is going on with this Philadelphia Eagles team.
Well, Zach, I'm doing well. For many of people stayed up late last night to see what the hell is going on, what's going to be going on from moving forward in this country. Zach, we don't know. We're going to cover it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a stressful time in the world, but come join us for the 30 minutes we have, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. Zach, I'm great. The Eagles made no moves, and neither did the Packers, and I'm a little bit ticked about that.
But and they were close. They were very close to making a move with the Texans for Will Fuller. We'll cover that later, but continue.
But it's surprising. But Zach, how are you doing?
I'm good, tired. I've probably in the past 4 days, I think I've gotten I'm averaging like 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. I know it's not healthy. I got to get back on the normal sleep schedule, but it's all right because trying to stay up to date on as much as I can. And part of our show with the sports, we do that. A lot of people watching election coverage midday. I was watching ESPN to see the trade deadline. So, but that it breaks the tension a little bit with the sports. But yeah, Eagles. We'll start with the Eagles. We'll get to the Packers in a few minutes because I know that was a big story as well. That was surprising. The only major move yesterday was the trade between the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins in that they traded a wide receiver to New England. It could potentially be something that we'll be able to look at, and we'll talk about later whether or not the Patriots are preparing for a tank or still trying to make a push. But Gavin, again, no Eagles moves yesterday. So I do have to ask you, what are some of your first reactions here to Howie Roseman, who's arguably one of the most aggressive general managers in the league, especially around the trade deadline? What are your thoughts on no moves being made this season for the trade deadline?
Well, the fact that Kawhi Alexander went for Kiko Alonso, what was that, late pick?
Late pick.
For the sick to the New Orleans Saints from 49ers, and you didn't get him. Zach, we know how bad the linebackers are for this team. We know we need linebackers for the Eagles. The linebacker spot is arguably the worst spot on the defense, and some people they still flame the secondary. In my honest opinion, I like the secondary this year. It's not the worst, but it's not the best either. But they do.
The secondary has not lost us a game, in my opinion.
Exactly. The secondary has not lost us a game. The linebacking core has a lot. Chase Claypool scored his 4th touchdown on us because you know why? Nathan Gary was on him at the end of the game. Who does that? Nathan Gary's garbage.
And that's coaching too. A linebacker should not be on a 4-3 wide receiver.
Exactly. So, and with the defensive coordinator, Zach, you can't trade away coordinators, sadly, because I would trade him away easily. But
you can trade coaches. John Gruden was traded.
You can trade coaches, but and so is Doc Rivers, but that's besides the point. My thing is this: when you look at yesterday's deals, which were no one made, you could have got yourself a more linebacker. I know they were talking about Sam Reddick from the Cardinals. Any linebacker you should have made a push for. Avery Williams went from the Jets to the Steelers. Zach, you could have got him, and they gave him up, and he was excited to go. I mean, I'll be excited to leave. You're leaving from the Jets to go to a winning organization. But Zach, the fact that there was not one linebacker brought in, or you could say maybe an offensive lineman or something, that's actually kind of surprising to me. Not even kind of surprising. It really is surprising to me. But what are your thoughts?
I think it's pretty clean cut, pretty simple. You go back a few years ago, the Eagles were a very good team. 2017, Carson Wentz is playing like an MVP. Wide receivers are there. You have a really good running back in LeGarrette Blount, but you missed that presence of a solidified third down back. And they went out and they got Jay Ajayi. What they do, Gavin, although Carson Wentz got hurt, they went on to win that Super Bowl. And Jay Ajayi, very much so, was a big part of it. Unfortunately, he had some injury issues the next year, and even last year he had an opportunity to play a little bit. Now we found some running backs in Miles Sanders and Boston Scott. Again, credit to Howie for that. We've given him a lot of heat on this show. And then next year, they're sitting right under 500. The schedule is not easy in the last 4 or 5 games, and I think it was 6 or 7 by the point when they made the trade. They went out and got Golden Tate. They needed that little extra push to get into the playoffs, and that Golden Tate touchdown catch in that Bears game made that trade for the draft pick worth it. And then last year, they needed a little bit of depth on the defensive side. Wide receivers were not yet fully depleted and fully hurt. They went out and got Gerard Avery. There's a very clear message that Howie Roseman is sending this year. He is not willing to invest draft capital when he feels that we are not just one move away. And we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about the Eagles' game plan. I said in the beginning of the year, this team arguably goes as far as Carson Wentz and the offensive line does. You live by your lines, you die by your lines, and that's where it is. You're not going to make a quarterback trade, obviously. It's more than likely you're not going to make a quarterback decision this year on whether or not you're going to plug in Jalen Hurts or even Nate Sudfeld, who could be a possible conversation depending on if Wentz were to come out and Hurts comes in and doesn't look good. I personally think it's unlikely, but here's the deal. It's also really tough when your best asset that you can trade is on injury reserve. A lot of teams called about Zach Ertz. The Ravens, we could have made a nice deal with them. Maybe we could have gotten Patrick Queen, the rookie, before we even started a game with them. We could have gotten something else, possibly if they wanted Marcus Peters on the move with his contract, even though he was only there for less than a year. And then I was reading about a few weeks ago a Zach Ertz for Hassan Reddick trade. I was a big fan of it. And the Eagles had offers. They had legit offers on the table from Green Bay and legit offer on the table from Baltimore. And I believe they turned both of them down. Howie Roseman sending a message. And arguably it's a good message, but you'll understand in a minute why I'm confused by it. He wants to retool this team to get them younger. Look at what he's done in just the past few months. Travis Fulgham, I don't know if he deserves credit for that or not, but he obviously looks like a very possible great player on this team who's young. Jalen Reagor, who I know that currently you're not so high on, but Gavin, Reagor's had 2 significant injuries this year, and he hasn't missed a beat. He has not missed extended time. This kid does not have lingering injuries. That's a pretty big deal in Philadelphia. We know how much injuries are bad. He had a injury before the season that he was supposed to stay out till week 3, ends up playing week 1 and looks really good on that one big deep ball. Almost had another one if Carson Wentz didn't overthrow him. And then he had his UCL had to be repaired with the thumb. And he came back ahead of schedule. And he looked explosive. They haven't used him enough properly yet, which I'm still blaming the offensive game planning. And then you have guys like John Hightower. He's shown nothing short of the ability to do quick routes and even go downfield and make a move and make a man miss and things like that. The wide receivers are not the issue on this team right now. They're really not. And if Dallas Goedert is able to become more productive as he's getting healthier and Miles Sanders comes back, Gavin, this team has no problem with the pass catchers. So that's not an issue. The skill position is not elite by any means, but it's just enough where if you're going to focus on paying your quarterback and your offensive line a lot, it's a good thing. The defensive side of the ball, my only concern, honestly, is the linebackers. The safeties have been doing their job. I think bad scheming has been a result. The defensive line's been phenomenal, especially Brandon Graham. But Howie Roseman sent a message yesterday. He feels that there's nothing he can do that will magically fix this team. Or another way of saying it, he doesn't feel the Eagles are one step away. I'll tell you what the problem is with Philadelphia right now. Gavin, I said here earlier on the show a few minutes ago, you live by your line, you die by your line. On both sides. What is the most injured part of this team this year, Gavin?
The offensive line.
Exactly. So you look at the years past, you lose your quarterback in Carson Wentz in 2017. You have a couple other injuries going on. And what happens? You still win the Super Bowl. The next year, you go to the playoffs. Last year, with Carson Wentz, I know that Nick Foles is going to be talked about. Carson Wentz last year did. We went on to the playoffs. In all 3 of those years, you had your quarterback go down 1 year, your entire secondary was down, and then your entire wide receiver core last year was down. Gavin, what is the one constant those past 3 years that you think allowed us to have success?
It's the line, man.
It's the O-line. And what is the one big thing we're missing this year? It's not secondary. It's not – the running backs has been hot and cold, but it's surely not the skill position guys. We're starting to see some guys emerge. It is the offensive line. And
the offensive line was shot down. Offensive line was shot down in the summertime with Brandon Brooks.
Once Brandon Brooks got hurt, it was a big deal. Lane Johnson's been out. All right. And that arguably is probably going to be responsible for a lot of Carson Wentz's struggles. And I think that Carson Wentz is so talented, his ability to move his legs, his ability to extend plays, which while it will hurt him sometimes, it hides some of the bad play calling of this football team. And those are some serious issues right there. So Carson Wentz is not yet going to be pulled. That's not the missing piece. You just got to get healthy on the O-line. And when that constant has been there and this team has been so good there, with these skill guys, if you had a better, I don't know, the O-lines look good for a lot of the time, but they've had some miscommunication, some basic things. They could click together later in the season. But this team wants to retain their draft capital, continue drafting young guys, and continue developing them. I like that idea, but this team is not good at drafting, and they're sure as hell not good at developing guys. So that's where my concern comes in.
You're putting me in a tough spot, Zach. And here's why. Jalen Reagor, to me, is up and down. I'm still not 100% sold on this kid. He did do a touchdown pass. He did that, right? That's good. I like it. But I haven't seen much from him. And
he's only played in 3 games, and he has.
I know, but here's why.
4 for 41 and 3 for 16 with a touchdown.
But here's my thing, Zach. I'm not blaming him anymore for his lack of well. I mean, it's his body. Injuries happen. You can't. No one wants to get injured. I blame Doug Peterson and because get creative. You see what they do in Atlanta? They put Calvin Ridley all over the place. Wide receiver screens, drag routes, slants routes. Then you got him with the over the top. Like you got all these routes for Calvin Ridley, and then you got a team, and you can say Julio Jones too. Look at what they do in Washington with Terry McLaurin. The same thing. They put him in all over the field, and they give him the ball in many different ways. Chase Claypool does the what would you call that, reverse or the end around, whatever you call it. Why are we not doing these things with Jalen Reagor? I don't understand. This is supposed to be your speed guy. Deshaun Jackson.
Lack of creativity is a big issue, and it's being exposed this year because you have the skill talent.
And that's what's hurting him the most.
You got to take the pressure. You got to take the pressure off of your offensive line.
Exactly. Get creative. Move the pocket.
When you're
around.
a pocket passer, you need to have a good O-line. It's that simple.
Excuse me. You got to move the pocket around. You got to. And if you know your offensive line is not good, get the ball quicker. I don't understand why can't we do this?
Slants, out routes, drags, screens.
The wide receiver, yeah. The wide receiving core here is going to be good. I like Travis Fulgham. I think Travis Fulgham is going to be a star here. Should have got rid of Zach Ertz in the beginning of the season. I think Dallas Goedert is the better option because he's younger.
Yeah, but he won't cost as much.
And that too, and does a little bit more than Zach Ertz does when it comes to run blocking and things. Hightower, I believe in Hightower. He has a few things he needs to clean up. I love Greg Ward, even though Greg Ward got a little bit angry in the Giants game, but it's all right. It happens. Boston Scott and Miles Sanders, that's a good backfield. LeGarrette Blount was the key to the Eagles' success in 2017. Zach, I think I came on and told you. I said, in the red zone, what do? You hand it off to LeGarrette Blount. That's an easy 4 or 5 yards right there.
Absolutely. That's something that we had in Jordan Howard last year. It's something that this team is definitely lacking this year, and we'll have to see how it continues to play out. But right now, it doesn't look like the Eagles think they're a serious contender. They shouldn't think so. Make the playoffs. Do something nice. I mean, don't be a total embarrassment and go into the offseason, get healthy, and from there you'll be doing much better because you have younger guys at the positions where you usually have the most injuries. You have younger guys who are flourishing, and that's a positive thing going forward. But speaking of wide receivers, Aaron Rodgers almost got another one yesterday. However, he did not. We'll break that down right after this. We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom-designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewers' choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode. I mean, we talked about this before with the wide receivers of Aaron Rodgers. I don't personally see. I think Devontae Adams is a top 5 wide receiver, and that alone should be enough. You've got Allen Lazard, who's unfortunately hurt right now. You have a guy Robert Tonyan, who has some George Kittle tendencies, who is really breaking out right now for that team. That offense ain't the problem. If the Packers are going to go deep, they're going to go win the Super Bowl. It's that defense, and they got a good secondary, but they can't stop the run for their life. So personally, I'm not really upset that they didn't get him another weapon. I think that anyone out there saying, well, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have enough weapons, it's so unnecessary. You have 3, arguably. You have 2 really good backs who both are great pass catchers, and you have a rookie in A.J. Dillon who looks really good so far as well. This team has a good O-line, a great head coach, very smart. Him and Aaron Rodgers seem to have a good working relationship. If I got to be honest, I don't see what the pressure is to get him another wide receiver. They got other pieces. Marquez Valdez-Scantling doesn't look too bad, and it's Aaron Rodgers. The quarterback can make the wide receivers look better. So I'm not behind it.
I'm a little ticked off about it, Zach, and here's why. You didn't get him a wide receiver in the draft, and you didn't get him in the trade. Zach, Devontae Adams is not a top 5 wide receiver in total, but I think these last 2 weeks he's looked like he's top 5. These last
There's like 6 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks.
6 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, yes, maybe even more. The defense is a real problem here, and let's not ignore it. In the NFC Championship game, Raheem Mostert ran for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. They can't stop no one to save their life. Last week, Dalvin Cook did the same damn thing, but he had 4 touchdowns this time.
And it was simple runs. It was nothing complicated.
It was something I could do. It was something that, and it looked like you were playing Madden out there, Zach. That's what it was. It looked like me when I was using the Vikings against you in Madden. That's what it looked like. They were just doing inside zone runs and getting 10 to 20 yards out of it. All right. So you didn't get Aaron Rodgers anything on offense, but you didn't get anything on the defense either. You didn't get maybe like a defensive lineman. All right. You didn't get anybody. Everson Griffin was released. Why don't you give him a call? You need somebody to stop the run. You need something. Because right now, the path you're heading down, Zach, it doesn't matter if you make it to the playoffs or not. You're going to make it, but if you got teams like the Saints, the Seahawks, the Cardinals.
Even the Buccaneers, the Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones.
The Buccaneers, the Eagles, if they get in. God. Zach, any team can run the ball against you. That's a problem. And it doesn't have to be a big star. It doesn't have to be a big star. It doesn't have to
All you got to do is score early and hold a lead against Green Bay, and you can easily win against them. It happened with San Fran twice last year. It happened with the Buccaneers this year, and it happened with Minnesota, who's been terrible this year.
But to say that this man doesn't have enough pieces, it's a fair argument, but the defense is worse. It's a fair argument to make, but he makes do.
He has plenty of pieces.
He makes do with what he got. He's a great quarterback. By the way, Zach, A.J. Dillon's out with the virus, and Jamal Williams is questionable or high risk. So I think he's out as well.
And I still lose Aaron Jones, who's probably top 5.
Aaron Jones was limited in practice yesterday. But, Zach, all in all, what I'm trying to say here is this. The defense is the real problem of the Packers. It may look like the offense doesn't have talent, but they're still playing 30 points up a game, 30, 20 points a game.
Because the offense has talent. I disagree there.
Exactly.
When you have a wide receiver 1 who always will take a double team or always will take cornerback 1, it makes it so much easier for your complementary receivers to do their jobs.
It goes like this: is how far Aaron Rodgers could take them with his arm, and how healthy Devontae Adams could stay.
And you got to be able to compete in these shootouts if these teams are going to run the ball and shoot the clock on you.
You started off hot versus.
You got to find a way to fix that defense.
You started out hot versus the Vikings, and then they ran all over you. Well, excuse me, Dalvin Cook ran all over you. It's the second time you gave it.
Watch film. I mean, anyone can put together a game plan to beat the Packers the way that the Vikings played on Sunday.
You just run the ball. Zach, if Derrick Henry were to play against the Packers right now, do you think he would have 400 yards rushing? I believe so.
Probably.
That's how bad it is.
Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, all these guys would go off against them.
So if you're the Packers, Zach, who would you try? What would your focus be all season? Defense or offense?
Defense.
Because everybody's going to say, well, Aaron Rodgers does have this, but the real problem.
You need a really good tackling linebacker. You need a good defensive line. You don't have that. You have the Smith brothers, which are very talented, but they're not enough. You have an outside linebacker who's not really a coverage guy. He's a pass rusher. You're going to have to get 2 other guys in the middle there that are going to be able to analyze and read where the ball is, who's the ball carrier, and to be able to stop those guys. If they had Bobby Wagner on their team, they're Super Bowl champions. Forget about it. But you need to be able to have a team. You need to be able to have guys like that are able to come out there and do their job. Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, his defense is averaging giving up like 30 points a game. It's terrible. You can look at Rodgers' record. It's not pretty in the playoffs, but look at how bad his defense has been. Same thing with Russell Wilson. Defense, like they talk about bad. They give him almost no help. Chris Carson's playing like a top 5 running back right now. DK Metcalf is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. You have Tyler Lockett, who's had an insane game. He's got help, but his defense is not good. at all, and the offensive line is not good. So
Zach, I want to put this out here real
him
quick.
and Rodgers are two of the three top talented quarterbacks in this league, and they don't have a lot of help. Mahomes is probably the most talented. He's got a great O-line, great weapons.
He has a decent defense.
He's got a decent defense, and he won the Super Bowl in his second year. So that's kind of what it tells you.
Real quick, Zach, I want to put this out here, and there's going to be a theme to it. The Super Bowl winning Ravens with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and the crew. And you could say the 49ers with Patrick Lewis and the crew. Bobby Wagner with the Legion of Boom. Luke Kuechly and that defense. And there's one more.
Denver
in the defense. What is the key things to that? Great run stoppers. And it started with the middle linebacking core. With those 4 middle linebackers I named, and then the Denver defense with setting the edge in the front.
Yeah, pass rush is big. I mean, I think for Seattle's got a great linebacker and Bobby Wagner, arguably the best in the league. They have a top 3 safety in the league who's been hurt. Their
Maybe number one.
Their pass rush is non-existent. I'll be honest, it's non-existent. Their corners are fine. They're not anything special. They should have gotten Stephon Gilmore though, and they should have made a move for that. But Russell Wilson's O-line has never been great. They never invested in that. Teams have different play styles. It took having the best secondary almost in NFL history for Russell Wilson to win a Super Bowl. Not saying he didn't play well in the game.
Should have got 2. Run the ball.
He could have, but I'm saying it's not anything to discredit Russell Wilson, but it took a really generational defense in order for Russell Wilson to win a ring. And for the Eagles, it took an insane game out of Nick Foles and an insane clutch moment out of the defense to win. The defense.
You can even say that defense. You can even say that defense. It wasn't the linebackers for that defense. They had decent linebackers. It was more the defensive front that year.
Mm-hmm. They took over games. They really did.
Zach, the one thing and the defensive front can save any secondary. The quicker you get there, the less time they have to cover somebody.
Yeah, I'd hope so. I mean, that's something that the Eagles kind of noticed as the pass rush is getting a little bit older. But the bottom line is you look at these quarterbacks that are very talented. And the reason they come up short, it's not really their fault. It really isn't. It's a lot different than sports like basketball where you can truly take over the game. Russell Wilson can't play corner. He doesn't play any other position but quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers
Justin Herbert too.
I think that Aaron Rodgers is nothing that very much so. I think that Aaron Rodgers has plenty of offensive weapons, but that defense needs improvement. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year.
You can make the case to say the same thing about Justin Herbert. We talk about how Justin Herbert's record does not reflect how he's been playing. His defense gives up at the last moment. Back-to-back weeks, maybe 3 weeks in a row. Last second, the defense gives up on him.
No doubt, and it's a trend with a lot of teams. I mean, Carson Wentz was at the end of that stick last year with some games like Minnesota, but I mean this year it's a different story, of course. However, coming up after this, the rumors have surfaced. The Beard has possible interest from Philadelphia. Let's talk about it. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment. Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this. Yeah, I did accidentally press the end video there. Got a little bit ahead of myself, but
in the middle of me drinking my water, sir.
got it fixed up real quick. But yes, the rumors have surfaced finally without a big surprise. There is some possible interest from Philadelphia, the 76ers, to possibly go out and acquire James Harden. We don't know what it would look like. I don't even know what his contract situation looks like, to be honest with you. I think it is coming to an end soon, or possible renegotiations in Houston. As of right now, what I'm hearing, Joel Embiid is definitively in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons could be involved in that trade, but it does sound like they want to keep that duo together. Gavin, why don't you break it down for us?
First of all, it's like when I heard the reports, I thought about it. Zach, I was like, "Ooh, well, if you could somehow keep Ben Simmons, excuse me, you keep Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and James Harden, and give away Tobias Harris and Al Horford and a lot of others, and maybe a couple of draft picks." I was like, "But wait a minute, aging Al Horford and Tobias Harris is hot and cold. Nobody's going to want to take that. So I said, well, if you get rid of Ben Simmons and then a couple others, maybe a draft pick, you pair him up with Joel Embiid, you run pick and roll, you get some shooters around him, and you keep Tobias Harris too. Maybe you add somebody else. Maybe you get like a guy with Victor Oladipo on a 1-year deal here or something, or you get some great shooters around. It could work. It could work, Zach. And you got the great personnel around it. I was all for it, but here's the thing about it: it's hard because, and a Sixers guy, I love Ben Simmons, right? Everybody loves Ben. If Ben could shoot the 3 ball, it would be a different story here. We wouldn't have to ask for that. The only way, and I don't know if this is financially possible, the only way, if the Sixers want to make a push for James Harden, you're going to have to trade for Ben Simmons. If you want to wait for him, I don't know. I was trying to get the contract up here. If you want to wait for James Harden and pay for him, that's going to be a different story. It's going to be a little bit harder. The price might be up. He'll be a little bit older, but I'm not against getting rid of Ben Simmons for James Harden because James Harden is arguably one of the best scorers in the league right now. Some say all time. I don't know how people feel about that. That could be. Some say Kobe up there, a lot of others. But James Harden, once again, said for a whole month he averaged 30 plus and had.
He's been averaging 28 plus for 3-4 years now.
Exactly, and there was a year where he had what 4 or 5 50-point games in a month.
Something like that. I mean, the bottom line, it's pretty simple, and I'll let you get your final thought in a minute. Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook would be a disaster. Any person that knows basketball would say that. They're both the same guy, and it would not work. Not in any way. They'd be passing the ball back and forth to each other beyond the arc, like, no, you shoot a three, no, you shoot a three, no, you shoot a three. The only way that James Harden is out of Houston before his contract is done is if Houston decides to tank. That would include a lot of draft picks, a lot of young talent. Russell Westbrook would also be traded out of Houston. They would pretty much clean house. That's a very strong possibility. I'd put it 60-40, honestly. They might try to get one more run going, but I don't see Houston. Houston knows that they're not anywhere near the competitive landscape they need to be. You can't compete with bigs like Anthony Davis. You already know you can't compete with Golden State anymore, especially if they get a guy like James Wiseman. You don't have any kind of dominant big like that. Teams like Denver have your number. Teams like Oklahoma City took you to 7 games. At some point, you will have to tank. At some point, you look at this team and you say, I've been doing the same thing over and over again. It's not working. When do you decide to make the move? And that's promising for a Philadelphia 76ers fan who wants to speculate on this because it probably means you're not trading a superstar. But we'd be in a situation like the Clippers where you're trading a lot of first-round picks and a lot of young talent. And if it doesn't work out the same way it did for the Clippers this year, the Sixers could be in for some bad situations. And so, personally, I don't know. I would not – if that trade included like the next 3 or 4 years of first-round picks protected and a guy like Shake Milton and Matisse Thybulle, I would not take that. Because what happens when you don't end up winning the NBA Finals and you look back like, gee, we have maybe 3 guys right now that are all-stars, which is good. But where's our bench? What do we have? Can we afford it? That's something the Clippers are looking at right now. We thought the Clippers were NBA Finals champions for sure with that talent. I said yesterday on the show they still are one of the most talented teams. But they came up short, and they have nothing to build off of. The only thing they can do is retain the talent they have, and even that might not even be enough to compete in the West. Do you want the Sixers to be in the same situation like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that we can find cheap shooters. I think we can find guys that can make it work. And I think that the analytics fall in our favor, even with the current squad we have. If we can dump out Horford, it'd be great. I like where we're going with this team. I don't want to mess it up bringing in James Harden. No disrespect to him. But situationally for this team, I saw what happened in OKC. I saw what happened in Los Angeles. I don't want that happening in Philadelphia.
Who's that guy? I had the contract up over here. He signed a 6-year, $220 million deal. This season right here, I could get it back. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm bad at this. He was supposed to make here it is. He's supposed to make over $47 or $40 million this year alone, just this year alone. He'll be a free agent in the year of 2023 to 24. He'll be 34 years old. If it takes 2 first-round picks and maybe like Shake Milton and somebody else, if they're willing to go down or something or whatever, rebuild, I would say do it. But Zach, you're right. If it takes a lot, And the Sixers at the end of the day are looking at this.
It's an all or nothing scenario.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. And if you get nothing out of it, it's not worth it. Build your bench, ladies and gentlemen, because look at the Miami Heat. They had a nice group of people around them. The Warriors 2015 had a great bench as well.
I'd say start there. Here's what I'd say. I think that I don't know if it was Darrow or Doc or someone who said, we're going to kind of start the season where we are right now and then see what we need to do to make moves. Because I said before, the changes this team's already made, in my opinion, they're destined to be a competitive team in the second round, assuming they're healthy. So why not start the season with what you have? If you can dump Horford and find a way to get Buddy Hield here, I'm all aboard. However,
you have to do that before the season.
If you want to start the season with the roster you have and obviously make some quiet veteran free agency signings for the bench, I'm all aboard of it. And if you start off strong and you're midway through the season before the trade deadline, you look good, don't touch anything. But if you need that spark, if you need that other move, and you feel like this could be the year where that one free agent move could make that push, I say go for it. I think that this front office, this new head coach, don't know enough for moving things around yet. They don't know enough, and I think it's unfair to not start the season and see how this team looks. Last year we talked about in the NBA Finals, Gavin. We talked about a roster of Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid. The only problem is they wanted to play bully ball. You had a coach that was a 3-shooter who didn't adapt. You don't have that anymore. You have a good coach, a great coaching staff who can help him adapt in game. We know he's not the best at that. And you have a great front office analytics-wise. What's there to believe that you need to touch this roster yet? Should I not fall into that mistake and be like, well, you know what? We did get pretty beaten towards the end of the year. But at that point, I think that was just the coaching staff and the disconnect between the front office and the coach and the players all fell apart. I say unless there's a convincing argument to get Buddy Hield here, I would keep the roster currently and get some guys for the bench.
There's only one person I think I would move right away because of the age and how bad the contract is. I would move Al Horford and try to get Buddy Hield before the season. But Zach, I wouldn't touch anybody else. Maybe, and you're right, the front office itself and the coaching staff itself, that give free agents some options to be like, hey, I kind of want to play for, under Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers and these guys. That's as long as you just draw attention at least. Not saying they're gonna come here, but it should draw attention. When it comes to moving pieces, you're right, Zach. Let's wait and see. Me, on the other hand, I believe if you're going to have to move somebody first, it has to be Al Horford. Al Horford has to be the first one to go. If you can get Buddy Hield here, I'll take Buddy Hield, and that's the only move you want to make before the season. Fine, but I just don't believe Al Horford will be good here. A good fit here. And I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because
if he improves with that shooting, he could. But yes,
Brett Brown wasn't using them right. Yeah.
There seem to be some convincing arguments. That said, that will wrap up today's edition of the More Than Focus Sports Talk Show. We'll figure out if we can do some more extended times. We'll probably do it later afternoon tomorrow because I will be not available during the day, of course. But we'll figure out what we can do, Gavin. We'll figure that out ourselves. But other than that, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today.
Maybe during lunch break or something, we can find something out.
For sure. We'll give it a shot. Everyone, thank you for sticking with us. We're almost at 5 months now? 4 more days. We got 5 months. It's been great. Thank you, everyone, so much for the support. We appreciate it.
Zach. Real quick. Sorry to cut you off. Ladies and gentlemen, take a deep breath, America. All right. Stressful time going on outside, election going on, everything. We're going to cover it when the results are all in. Take a deep breath at the end of the day, regardless of who wins or not, even though we all have a respect of who we want to win. Zach, I know that's Americans. At the end of the day, we're Americans and we gotta love one another, respect one another, and be together. Unite through sports, Zach. That's what we've been saying for the longest.
I agree. I did comment this morning that, even if you and your neighbor may have a disconnect politically, I read this thing. It's like, well, Trump's not going to be able to fix your car. Biden's not going to bring a packet of sugar over to you at your neighbor. So no matter what happens, and Gavin, you and I politically, we have some division for sure. But we find a lot of common ground, and it's because we talk, and that's so important. And no matter what happens in this campaign, it's been an incredibly divisive year. Let's not let it get to us. Let's be strong. Let's unite through sports. Let's do what we can to show that there is hope and potential, and that we can continue to make a change. That's what's so important. That's why we started the show. No matter what happens in this election, we don't stop. If the candidate that you, the viewers, are watching, if the candidate you want to win wins, that's just the beginning for your progress. And if they lose, you have to unite behind them, even if you don't like their policy or whatever. I get it. It's a very tough thing to say. But if someone's in power for 4 years sitting there and not being happy, it's not going to accomplish anything. Have open the conversation. And again, we have no idea who's going to win. Honestly, me personally, in opinion, it's like a 50-50 split right now. And it's the most 2020 thing that could possibly happen in the year of 2020.
Look, Zach, I'm gonna just leave it. In my final remarks. Yes, like you said, like yes, we stand on different eyes or views on sometimes, but I still respect Zach and what he believes and Zach believes. But because you know what, we talk, we come to it, we talk, we'll talk about it. That's what
We want the same goal. We want
exactly.
the
We
same.
want at the end of the day, we all want to be equal. We all want to be united. And we all want to go back to doing things the old way, the old fashioned way, not like the old fashioned way, but we want to be doing it together. Uh,
I just want to make sure that everyone starts from the same equal opportunity. I don't think that people finish equally in the end because some people will outwork others, some people will do other stuff in other ways, and as people go through their lives, they get to learn that. But the key thing is that everyone needs to be able to start from the same place, and that
start
way
from the
you
same
get equal
place.
opportunity to do what you want to do.
Start from the same place and don't discriminate and don't treat others differently. Treat everybody the same with love,
And that's a
respect.
and that's a culture shift. It's not, one political campaign is not going to end racism. It's a culture shift. It's about the conversation. Gavin, we've expressed confidence in our generation. It's so important. The conversations are so important. I mean, heck, if one candidate wins, I'm sure I'll call people of the opposing side or people I know on both sides and say, what are your thoughts on this? Why do you feel this way? And the reason for that is because, where do we go wrong or where do we go right or did we interpret something differently? But at the end of the day, we got to, before you even begin discussing stuff, you got to sit down and say, okay, we can agree that what's happening, right now is bad. As far as, it's a pandemic out of control, agreeing that racism is bad, discrimination is bad. From there, you can say, okay, we can put that aside and now actually discuss policy, discuss words, discuss all those things. And that's how you have a good conversation. You got to make sure that you understand the person and where they're coming from. Don't debate just to debate. There are people out there, Gavin, who live off of debating and are so ignorant in their views that they just want to debate and they want to yell and they want to scream. I want to debate to understand and possibly get my mind changed or possibly have someone else's mind changed based on different perspective. And there's nothing wrong with compromise.
Like Zach, right here. If you put that last comment up right there, real quick.
Which one?
That last one. That the YouTube one. I don't like getting political, ladies and gentlemen. Politics is
We've
not.
expressed that before. We've said,
Yeah.
I know I cut you off there, but I've expressed before, we don't get political, but for some reason, there's been this notion that politics is directly linked to real world issues. I wasn't born yesterday. I've done my research. It's not. As much as some people think it is, it's not. You have, again, it starts local. Of course, politics has something to do with real life when the policies directly affect you. But if you want to talk about racism, you can't you can make discrimination illegal in the workplace. We've made good steps towards that. Of course, outlawing slavery was a huge one. Of course, the Civil Rights Acts have been huge. The Voting Rights Acts, all of these things. But the preconceived notion in someone's mind is not a political thing. It's a mindset. And it's important that we are able to change that by having these conversations.
Like I said, I don't like getting political. All right, Zach. Like
You said you're a people person. I've counted on many occasions.
I'm a guy.
Matters.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a guy. I'm a man of the people, and what I mean by that is, whenever I see wrong, I want it to be right, regardless of what it is. That's what's going on right now. There's a lot of wrong going on right now. Some can say, "Oh, well, politics has something to do with this, or has something to do with that." But, ladies and gentlemen, last time I checked, if you were in a lunch line and you stole a cookie and you walk away with it, did politics tell you to steal a cookie? No.
It's about personal responsibility. That's a big thing too, Gavin. It's about personal responsibility. Yeah. When the laws do infringe on your ability to have equal opportunity, I'm all on board that politics has a role. And then other times, there are times where it's up to you as a person to, and that's what we spoke about a few months ago on that great show that we had.
Great Thursday.
We talked about opportunity. What can we do to encourage that? What can we do to move forward? And that's our goal. I mean, any closing remarks you have, Gavin, here? I mean, again, we're still in a few days before we find out, but we're definitely at a starting point. Stay strong. Relax.
Zach, sir, stay strong. Love everybody. Treat everybody with respect. We're going to be okay. It's been one hell of a year. Excuse my language, but it's been one hell of a year. 2021 is around the corner. Graduation year, sir. Graduation year for us. And talk to y'all tomorrow.
For sure. Thank you, everybody, so much. Have a great day. if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post